Welcome back to Age of Empires 2. Last time, we learned how to upgrade our army to fight on equal terms, well, more like better than equal, because the troops that the enemy sends at you in the tutorial is totally pathetic. More than equal terms with the English. So, we've learned all these things. Now we come to the Battle of Stirling. This is where we put everything we've learned in the previous 4 scenarios all together. Now, by the time you finish this scenario, the game basically says you'll have learned most of the skills you need to play a random map game, which is basically the standard type of game in this one. And in fact, this tutorial mission pretty much plays like a Random Map Lite, basically. You'll see what I mean once we actually get into the thick of things. Something that I should mention, though, is the Battle of Stirling is actually a real-life battle. Go Wikipedia it if you're interested.
The time for minor skirmishes is over. We now prepare for war. The villain Longchamps is poised to cross the River Forth and threaten the town of Stirling with a force of men-at-arms, heavy cavalry, and a multitude of archers. Our newly formed army marches southward to establish our own base and attack the English before they can ready their troops.
And for the first time, we actually get the objectives given to us automatically from the start. This usually happens for most standard scenarios. It's around now that the game is basically sort of out of tutorial mode and more into actually you applying those skills in real combat situations. So, our job here is to defeat the English army and destroy their tower. Not town centre, they're kind of starting you off small here. If we check the hints here, it basically says that this scenario begins in a similar way to a random map game. Basically everything I've already said.
The time has come to take the offensive. The English have a fort near the town of Stirling. If we can defeat the English here, they may think twice about their invasion of Scotland. To win, destroy the English tower to the west. Before we attack the English to the west, we need to build up our forces. Have your villagers start gathering food and wood. Keep making villagers at your town centre until you have 10. The more villagers you have, the faster your resources will come in.
So we've got a pretty good starting point here defined for us. And you might notice that we actually need additional houses before we can have 10 villages, and we've already got quite a good stockpile of wood, so I'm actually going to build a few houses already. Whoops, that was actually placed that wrong, but anyway. I like to group my houses close together for the most part. It's kind of easier, and they take up less space. Actually, generally speaking, I don't like to put stuff near the town centre because I like to save that for something else, but for the time being, you go gather, you gather, and you know what? I probably should build a mill there eventually. How much wood can I afford to lose? I will not have enough for a barracks if I do that, so let's get some more villages. Definitely want more. How many do we currently have? We have 3, so I'm going to need 7 if we want to have 10. Yeah, 7. And I'm going to set a gather point here on this tree so that we go ahead and actually chop that at the first opportunity. Actually, no, let's start with that tree. So, let's just get some more villagers there. Now, while our villagers are busy gathering...
Scout cavalry are poor fighters, but you can see great distance. You can use your scout cavalry to explore the rest of the map and find the English.
So yeah, we have a new unit here, Scout Cavalry. They're basically exactly what it says on the tin. They are much better for exploring than regular militia are because they can see quite far.
Gather point button.
Oh yeah, and that whole gather point thing, yeah, way ahead of you, I already explained that. And I find right-clicking much better than physically setting the gather point yourself. Let's just go ahead and explore around with our Scout Cavalry a bit. Generally, you want to explore the area near...
You found some sheep. Sheep are a good source of food, so send them back to your town centre and assign a villager to gather food from them. Use your villagers to build a mill near your forage bushes.
Yeah, I was about to do that. Do I have enough wood for that? I really need a barracks, so I'm a little worried about that. But anyway, hey, there's exactly enough space for a mill right there. It's as if they planned that, which they probably totally did, considering this is the tutorial. But anyway... Oh hey, some stone. Okay, so we've found our stone source. This is a good reason why you want to explore around your starting location as much as possible, because you really need to find your resources. Generally speaking, you'll usually have enough resources near your starting location in most games.
You can gain more food by building fishing ships. To create fishing ships, have your villagers build a dock in the water to the south.
Okay, so he's just talked about naval units. We'll learn about those in a little bit. For the time being, let's just keep exploring because we haven't found a source of gold just yet. There's the river down there. We'll explore that a bit later. I should mention at this point that if my sister was watching this, she'd probably totally kill me because she is really OCD about having absolutely zero black on the map at all, so yeah. And hey, I found my gold, that's good. Right, that's probably enough to explore around my main area. Oh, more gold. This gold's probably a little more convenient, actually. So, that's actually quite a lot of gold. That'll probably last us the whole scenario, actually. So, here is our water, and here's some shallows. Shallows are water that can be crossed by land units, basically. Water looks much nicer in the HD edition, I must admit. Probably really the only thing that does, but oh well. Hey, what do you do? Stupid villagers. Hey, you know what? You have just volunteered to become gold miners. You go ahead and build that. Okay, how are my resources going? Food is alright. Actually, wait a minute. I do not have nearly enough villagers on food duty, so you go there. I'm gonna need a few more villagers, actually. And I'm out of food, so yes, definitely need more food. Okay. Now, weirdly enough, you can't see this, but my fraps counter is actually blocking the wood counter, so I actually have no idea how much wood I have. But seeing as it just went up there, I believe I only have 100. That's actually not good because I'm going to need a barracks, but anyway. I already have quite a lot of gold, I just realized, so it's probably not... Gold is less of a priority early on. You probably need just enough to start creating soldiers, but not too much. Early on, food and wood should be your highest priority. Again, food for more villagers, which I will want now, and wood for houses to sustain those extra villagers. Now, while we're at it, in fact, speaking of which, if we're a little low on food, please tell me that. Oh, I've got almost exactly enough for a dock, actually. Let's go ahead and do what the guy said and put a dock here. It seems that this river is abundant with fish, so, yeah. Now, we'll need wood to build fishing ships, so once again, we'll need more wood there. Eventually, I will want to build a lumber camp right, probably near this forest, actually, because, you want to be a little careful when when chopping down forests, because if you're not careful, you could open up an easy avenue of attack for enemies into your town. So that's why I'm going to open up one over here, because I'm pretty sure the enemies are around this side of the map. And dock is done. You go back to
the fishing ship.
Okay, they cost 75 wood, and I believe I have enough. See if I can get more. See how many I can get. Don't want to go too overboard, and set a gather point on the fish there. Fishing ships basically do what they say. They fish for food. That's basically all. But they are very, very useful on maps where you can use them. So while we're waiting for those fishing ships, let's explore a little more.
Got a lot. Fish. Click a fishing ship and right-click on a leaping fish. The fishing ship will collect fish and automatically return them to the dock. Fishing ships are also useful for exploring.
So yeah, fishing ships are basically, yeah, they fish, that's pretty much it, but a good source of food, and you'll notice that our food is coming in much faster. In fact, our resources in general are coming in much faster, and that's a very good sign. And you guys have already started over there, so you know what, I'm going to go ahead and build myself a lumber camp here. And hey, speaking of which, okay, you guys go on berry duty because you just ran out of sheep.
Villagers can also build farms. Build 4 farms near your mill when your forage bushes are depleted. Each farm needs only 1 villager working on it.
Okay, so we just learned about farms. Now, really, you don't need to focus on farms this early in the game. Only after you've exhausted almost all of your other food sources do you need to worry about farms. I've got fish there, I've got forage bushes, and I have deer. I'm pretty much set when it comes to food for the time being. Farms are when the map itself is running low on food resources and you need more. But anyway, let's go exploring a bit.
The hill with the dead tree protects the only access to your town. It would be a good idea to build a watchtower on this hill once you advance to the feudal age.
watchtowers are basically like outposts, except they can actually attack, so very, very useful. And blocked by forest there, so let's continue exploring this way while my villagers go ahead and build up my stockpile of resources. You know what? I reckon I have enough wood to build a barracks, so you there! You! Barracks, now. Once I do have this, I will be able to advance the next age once I have enough food, which I actually currently don't, so... So, let's continue exploring. Now, usually, campaign scenarios generally have roads on the map, which clearly tend to mark where you need to go. So, always follow those roads, usually convenient that way. So, if we follow this road, we find some... Oh, what? Okay, an outpost. Alright, okay. So, they probably know that we're coming by now. That's not a good sign. So...
You're close to an English base. You better not knock down this wall until you've got an army of about 12 soldiers.
As you can see, the British are protected by a very scary, strong stick wall. Yeah, palisade walls are fairly flimsy, so we don't really need to worry about breaking this down. It's going to be pretty easy once we have enough soldiers. But yeah, we just need to make sure that we've got enough soldiers, and that's the real question. Now that we've found the enemy, yeah, scout guy, you just, well, go that way! Yeah, you can issue orders from the minimap as well by right-clicking your location. Hey, you! No slacking off on my watch, you go pick berries. And now we can start, okay, I'll get a few of them, maybe 5 or so, but then I will advance to the next age, because I really want to save some food for doing that. Don't really stand a chance in the Dark Age, so yeah. Actually, we've pretty much explored all of the map we're actually ever going to, so my Scout Cavalry is going to go back here. Scout Cavalry, as the hammy Scottish guy said, are pretty poor fighters, but at least they're the only cavalry that you... Kind of funny now that I've basically said that I've already explored just about everything there is to explore, but anyway. And feudal age time. Okay, now I can safely worry about wasting my food on these things. Now, the annoying thing about advancing to the next age is your town centre cannot produce any more villages until the age upgrade is finished, so...
The English are coming to attack! To protect your villagers, you can use the town bell to garrison them in your town centre. Click your town centre, then click town bell.
You go that way. Yeah, these guys are going to die very quickly. Okay, good.
Good! You defeated the English assault. If you have villagers in your town centre, ring the town bell again to send them back to work.
Yeah, I've already got
gathered
ahead
500 food, advance to the feudal age at your town centre. If you're low on food, build some additional farms.
Okay, we ran out of that, but these villagers here, be careful not to select the militia by accident. You go up here, build another mill over there, and start hunting deer. Now, the interesting thing about, there's something actually kind of interesting about, villager AI and how it improved in the Conquerors expansion. Now, after you've built a drop-off point, villagers will automatically start gathering the nearest resource that applies to that drop-off point, which is cool. And you are going to build me some more houses, because I just realized we're going to need them.
Now that you've reached the feudal age, concentrate on making some soldiers to fight the enemy. You'll need at least 12. Remember, you can upgrade your militia to men-at-arms at the barracks. You should always upgrade soldiers when you can afford it.
So these guys started to focus on building after that, which was really weird. I don't think I've seen villagers do that before. Unit AI can be kind of derpy sometimes. But anyway, yes, I can go to men-at-arms. Again, annoyingly, the barracks can't actually do anything until I've done that. I can actually start creating offensive ships at this point, but we really don't need any. Now that we're in the feudal age, we can also research a few technologies that make resource gathering faster. I don't think we're really going to need them that much at this point, but it's nice to know. What we might need, though... Hey, you're not gathering anything at the moment. We can build a whole bunch of new buildings here. Now, most of these won't really become relevant until a bit later. We can also build walls, which is really awesome. Hey, let's do what that guy said and build a watchtower on this hill. It's probably not really going to see any use, but anyway. Now, you. Go drop off your wood. And you are going to build me archery range. This is a new type of military building. In fact, the barracks is actually a prerequisite for this, as well as stable. Once we've constructed the archery range, we will obviously be able to train archers. Now, archers tend to use more wood than they do food or gold, and since we have a ridiculous amount of wood, that should not be a problem for us. Archers tend to be very good in support of infantry, and hey, men-at-arms is done, okay. Spearmen. We might actually want to create a couple of spearmen. Spearmen are infantry units that are effective against cavalry. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. And hey, archery range is done.
Yeah.
Spearmen are very good guards for archers. Because, well, yeah, archers tend to really hate having to deal with cavalry, and spearmen are pretty good against them, so yes. We can make some archers. They only cost wood and gold, which is very nice considering we have an abundance of both of them at this point. So, let's go ahead and go there. I probably have way too many soldiers for this scenario, so yeah, this is going to be interesting. We can also create skirmishes.
Good.
Skirmishes are... Oh, anyway.
Tower will fire on enemy units and help protect your town.
Now what the heck, you go gather gold.
Now you have a large enough force to attack the English base. Charge! Keep your villagers working just in case you suffer casualties and need to make more troops.
That and charging your villagers into war is a terrible idea, and don't do it. Yep, if you can see here, villagers have an attack stat of 3, whereas men-at-arms have 6. Archers only have a little bit higher than villagers, but at least they attack from long range. You might notice spearmen have a very low attack stat. That will change. They get a bonus, they get an attack bonus against cavalry, which kind of makes up for that. But really, spearmen are terrible against anything that isn't cavalry, so keep them away from that. And our scout cavalry is injured. Now, normally there are ways to heal injured units, but they're not really going to be available to us until much later. You know what? It's probably time to actually go ahead and attack the English base. So, let's just send these guys in. Few of them are injured, that's probably fine. Let's go. Charge! Make them pay for daring to build a tower like we did. And anyway, so let's just continue making a couple of soldiers just so that we have some extra forces in case somehow this attack fails, which I highly doubt it will. As you can see here, we can also create skirmishes from the archery range. Skirmishes are a dedicated anti-archer troop. They are resistant to archer fire and effective against archers. Not effective against much else, though. Yeah, this game has a lot of counter units, so you'll need to get used to seeing those. Attack the stick wall! Okay, there are a couple of men at... Oh, not a couple. Archers? Why don't you start firing at them? While the, what the hell are you doing? That outpost is not a threat! Destroy the wall! Yeah, it's a little annoying because sometimes you can only have so many soldiers attacking the wall at once, and yeah. Archers, you are going for the ones on the other side of the wall, aren't you? Yeah, while we're busy knocking down this wall, the archers will soften up the enemy for us.
Upgrade your weapons and arms at the blacksmith. You do have
no I don't, but I'm not going to need it. Well, at least I'm probably not going to need it. Yeah, blacksmith is very useful, but I don't think I'm going to need it at this point. So, let's see, are there any more troops? Yep, archer. Okay, right, this thing's going to die very quickly once we close with it. Another archer. That shouldn't be too bad. Normally, you tend to use cavalry against archers, but at this point, the only cavalry we have is scout cavalry, and they're pretty terrible. Now, I might have to send in some reinforcements here. You guys go ahead and attack the other... no! Don't go for the house, you morons! Tower! Tower is our objective. Destroy the tower. Okay, good. All the troops are dead. Everyone, destroy tower. Right. Now, towers can actually be quite a threat to infantry. You usually want to take these things out with siege weapons. So, I'll send the reinforcements in. Actually, though, this tower is actually going down quite quickly. Okay, this guy's going to die if I don't pull him out, though. Oh, well, his sacrifice will not be in vain. Wait a second. Oh, right! They haven't researched the technology that lets towers shoot directly down. Okay, forget what I said. This tower's going to go down easily. I'll explain more about that technology a bit later, but let's just say towers are totally crippled without it. And goodbye, tower!
Good job! You have destroyed the English camp. The Battle of Stirling is sure to end in victory for the Scots.
And hey, let's sack their houses while we're at it.
Advance through the ages and find and fight your enemies. You have all
and
the
these guys are
you
late
need
to the
play a
party.
random
Sorry we
map
didn't
game.
go
The
attack
most
some
common
houses.
type of game in Age of Empires 2.
Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. And there we go. At least the archer's got a few shots in.
Stirling was our first great victory. Even as we held the coastline, word came in that the Stirling Bridge had been held by a force of Scots led by the mythical knight, of whom so many have spoken. Now, we know his name. Sir William Wallace, the Hammer of the English. Edward Longshanks names Wallace a traitor and a criminal, but Sir William replies that he cannot be a traitor, since he never swore fealty to an English king. With Wallace leading our armies, the men fight with renewed vigor. Perhaps the tide of our misfortunes is about to turn.
So, yeah, that was the Battle of Stirling. And again, that was a real battle, and yes, the Scottish did win that battle originally. And we finally actually heard about William Wallace. It's kind of weird. Despite the fact that this campaign is named after him, he doesn't really actually appear that much at all. He's more of a side character to what you're doing. It's really weird, actually. But anyway, now that we've finished that, well, that's pretty much all I need to say. This one probably went on a bit longer than the others, but now we've done this, we pretty much know all the skills we need to play a random map game. But next time, we'll look at a few of the more unique features of this game. And now it's time for Ye Olde Fact of the Day. The Scout Cavalry. Now, while Hammy Scottish Guy basically gave a very brief summary of their role in this video itself, namely they're poor fighters but they can see a great distance, I think it deserves a little more attention considering that Scout Cavalry are actually quite an important unit. Well, firstly, and this is pretty much the big thing, in most standard games, unless you're playing as the Aztecs or Mayans, you will always start a battle with one Scout Cavalry. Oh, and yes, I mentioned Aztecs and Mayans don't get them. Don't worry, they do have their own substitute, but we'll be covering that a lot later, and I mean a lot later. That's not until the expansion campaigns, but anyway, rest assured that, yes, they get their own substitute. But anyway, Scout Cavalry are thus pretty much the first cavalry unit you'll really be able to deal with. Cavalry are, well, obviously, faster than infantry, but they suffer extra damage from spearmen and pikemen, and you kind of want to keep them away from things like that. Of course, Scout Cavalry combat in general really isn't their forte. After all, they only really have as much HP as a man-at-arms, and a much lower attack score, or at least earlier on. There's actually kind of a weird thing regarding Scout Cavalry's attack. In the Dark Age, it's 3, the same as a villager. Yeah, that guy wasn't kidding when he said they were poor fighters. However, once you advance to the Feudal Age, they actually get an automatic +2 to their attack, making it 5, which is at least 1 higher than a militia, but not as high as a man-at-arms, and with equal HP, you really don't want to waste your Scout Cavalry in combat too much. They can be alright against archers because they can close with them quickly, but they tend to lose very, very badly to mass groups of infantry. But, as I was saying, combat isn't the Scout Cavalry's forte. Its main strengths are its speed, and yes, they are actually fast even by cavalry standards, and their extensive line of sight, and that's the main reason you're given one early on. In the Dark Age, your Scout Cavalry will mostly be exploring, and for that it does really, really well. You saw a brief demo of basically how to explore in this mission here, but yeah, basically just send your Scout Cavalry everywhere to just get a good idea of where things are, and eventually possibly find where your enemies or even your allies are located. It's a very good thing to know that, because, well, obviously you'll need to want to keep an eye on them. Speaking of which, scout cavalry can sometimes harass enemy villages a little bit early on, but if they start ringing the town bell, you want to get the hell out of there, because yes, in the Dark Age, you do not want to lose your only scout cavalry because you will not have any more, and losing it will seriously cripple your exploring abilities. Starting with the Feudal Age, you have the ability to create more scout cavalry at the stable. They only cost food too, but quite a lot of food compared to most units available at that point. And of course, starting in the Feudal Age, they have a little bit higher attack power, but I still wouldn't recommend using them in combat that much. They are the only cavalry that you get then, so in essence, they're kind of the cavalry equivalent of a militia. Better than nothing, basically, but not that great. But, yeah, scout cavalry, mainly useful for exploring, and that's really what you want to put them to. Now, interesting thing in terms of scout cavalry in combat, though, is something that was added in the Conquerors expansion. You see, this wasn't actually there in vanilla Age of Kings, but starting with the Conquerors, scout cavalry actually gain an attack bonus against monks. Even in the original Age of Kings, they did actually have an innate conversion resistance. We'll actually learn about that in the next scenario, but Scout Cavalry, let's just say, are actually innately a little bit more resistant to conversion than most units are, which is mostly there to ensure they don't randomly defect on you while you're using them to explore, because that would really suck. But anyway, they actually do quite a lot of damage to monks. The problem is this isn't really relevant for two main reasons. One, monks take a lot of damage from just about everything, and two, by the time the enemy will actually start having monks available, it's the Castle Age, and an upgrade is already available for Scout Cavalry. So, if you want to be using these things to combat monks, you probably will want to upgrade them first. Yes, Scout Cavalry do indeed have an upgrade that's available in the Third Age. And this upgrade, well, it's a very serious improvement, and one that I would highly recommend investing in. But that's for later. For now, it's time for a history lesson. The importance of fast horse units for scouting had been learned in ancient times and carried forward into the Middle Ages. Even Middle Age armies built around heavy knights maintained a force of lightly armoured scout cavalry to act as the eyes of an army on the march. Scout cavalry employed horses bred for stamina and speed. They would range far in advance and to the flanks of an army to gather information about enemy movements. Scout cavalry were less useful in battle because the men wore little armour and light weapons. They were very useful, however, once an enemy was defeated and routing. Then scout cavalry were effective in running down fleeing survivors and capturing equipment, wagons, and prisoners.